Hey guys, I'm live and we are on. Let me just monitor the comments on my. I guess it's not coming up yet. I'm trying to do it too fast. Welcome, guys. Welcome, Great Gold, Misty, Nemo, Jasper Singh, Mr. Nobody, Circle of Ravens, Iron Fist, Der Bauer, Buvnesh, and James Mason. Hello, guys. Welcome. And don't forget, if you like what you're seeing, then you can hit the like button. If you don't like, hit the dislike button. It's good to always see honest comments. So just give an opinion if you like or not like what you see. Anyway, tonight's topic is going to be there's a lot of things to talk about. So I'm going to try to squeeze it into the first half an hour, and then the rest is Q&A. So for those of you who look at the size of the live stream and it's kind of long, but I squeeze in the talk section only in the first half an hour, and the rest is Q&A, which if you don't want to watch the Q&A section, you don't have to. But trust me, you're going to pick up a lot if you watch one of the live streams. There's many things I talk about on a live stream that I do not talk about in a short video. And I get the chance to get feedback and get direct input from you guys, and I get to react and say things that I may not say in the video. So, guys, the three topics we're going to focus on today will be video calling, which is the subject matter of my last video. And then I want to talk about VPNs and email. And then I want to also talk about LineageOS or AOSP security and some of the comments I see on the internet that gives you a little bit of disinformation that, we're going to make it honest. And some of the stuff that I see is not necessarily honest. So we're going to see exactly what all that means. And welcome to the broadcast. Hello, Huge D Byte. Hello, my friend. Huge D Byte. So anyway, again, first portion here is not a Q&A. It's in the after the first 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to squeeze in everything here. And the first topic I'm going to talk about is video calling. So any of you, I'm actually shocked that the video calling video was not popular at all. Nobody actually was watching it. So it's one of my least popular videos for some reason. And I spent a lot of time researching that. It's one of the more complex things to research is how video is made. And the conclusion of the video on video calling, the conclusion is that most video calling of any sort is very unsafe. And even if you use Signal, there are limitations, and there are cases when even using Signal, it is still unsafe. So there are very, very few options when it comes to video calling. But there is an option, and I said it for those who actually got to the end of the video. And the only way to have safe video calling, if you want to do it for your family, for your business, if you want to do a conference where you want to be able to do it safely and you don't want to share your information to the outside world, the answer is not to use Zoom, Periscope, any of this. The answer is not to use Skype. The answer is not to use FaceTime. The answer is not even to use Signal. The answer is to use your own video server. And some of you ask, what do I use as my own video server? And the answer really is simple, but I couldn't think of it at the time when I made the video. But after the video, I thought about it and I said, oh my gosh, it's really simple to make your own video server. Very simple. And I already had a video on it. And the answer is Nextcloud. All you have to do is set up your own Nextcloud. So if you manage your own server, then it's your own video, and whoever you bring into the video is on your server, and no one else will interfere with it. So there's your answer. Set up your own Nextcloud server. Now, how do you do that? Well, one of the ways to do it is you set up a Linode server. That's one of the ways. And a Linode server, even if you use the smallest one, will be excellent for video. If you get a chance to configure something called Nextcloud Talk. I actually haven't played with it yet. It's something I should play with. I haven't played with that, but Nextcloud Talk allows you then to use video for anyone on your Nextcloud server, and then it will be private because it's only happening on your Nextcloud server. Nobody else is on there. So that's the only solution. This video, by the way, this live stream is sponsored. It's in fact sponsored by Linode. So let me just say that I don't take sponsors lightly. I chose Linode as a sponsor because I've always known Linode for a very long time, and they've been around. If you didn't know this, they've been around since 2003, before even Amazon AWS was around, and they're very, very Linux focused, and especially since in the case of Nextcloud was actually a PHP server running on Linux. So, and that's what they specialize in. So if you used my link there, you actually get a discount. So if you want to test out setting up a video server, I don't know why I didn't think about it or mention it in the video, that this is actually the easiest solution for setting up a video on your own that's safe. It's probably the only safe option that I can offer you today. And only in a live stream will you get this information. Thank you, David. Thank you. So this is the best way to do that. Set up your own server, and you will get safe video. So that's one of the things I wanted to say about video. So many of you have brought up so many options, and to be honest, you can name all the video companies and video streaming and video options, and if they do many to many of any sort, even if they do one to one, only Signal really has some sort of encryption in some cases if there's no relay involved. If there's a relay, I don't think you can encrypt it on the relay, the turn relay. So that's the problem that I have. So if you're not using that, then your video is unsafe. Don't use the video unless it's your own server. So that is the new tip for today that I hope you apply to your own life here, and stop using Zoom. Okay? Stop using Zoom. So if you're going to use Zoom, assume it's public. Think of Zoom as using YouTube Live or Facebook Live. You're advertising to the world. If you want other people to see it, like if I'm playing piano, I won't mind using Zoom, because I'm going to show you everyone I'm playing piano. It doesn't matter. So I use Periscope typically for doing that. So you can use that for that purpose. But if you're going to have a private meeting with private discussions, I don't think so. And I really feel sorry for those who actually use video calling for things like nudity. And it's like, zuck. So you're going to talk to your girlfriend using Zoom. And it's like, OMG, some of you do this on Periscope. Oh my gosh. And nobody watched the video. Strangely enough, thank you, Circle of Ravens. Thank you so much. Nobody watched the video. It's one of the lowest watched videos from my followers, and it's very strange. It means you don't want to give up using your Zoom. So yes, you don't have to use Zoom. You can use Nextcloud. It's actually pretty simple to use talk on Nextcloud because it's right on the menu. Okay, so that's the topic on video calling. The next one I'm going to talk about is, it's a common question. Do you need a VPN when you're on the road? This is on your phone. So if you're not home, do you need a VPN? Definitely, there's no question that you must have a VPN on your home network. Must. I'm not sure there's an option. That's why I tell you to use a Brax router, so that everyone in your house is automatically on the VPN. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to plan it out. You're automatically on a VPN if you have a VPN router. That's one of the things that I do. And it's such a popular product for me. And I appreciate that it's popular. So you guys are using it a lot. But a VPN on your cell phone is one of the questions where you can wonder if you actually need it or not. And I'll give you the pluses and minuses. In some ways, you might think it's optional to use a VPN on the road. In some cases, it's not. It depends on the threat. So, yes, Sync Thing. I know Sync Thing. Yes, haven't tried it yet though. So anyway, one of the things that I want to like discuss is what IP address or why IP addresses is a problem. If your IP address is associated with a single location, as it is with your home network, if your GPS, if your phone is on and you turn it on and you're on your home network, obviously there will be a single location because you're always in the same spot and the same IP address. Well, that is captured by your phone. There's a lot of products and apps and so on that actually capture that data on the phone and sell it. So just by having a phone in your home on a home network, if they capture the IP address, location, and your Google ID, you are zucked. Because now they can do what is called reverse IP lookup that's being sold to a lot of companies. So all they have to know is know your IP address, they know who you are. Know your email, they know what your IP address is. Know your Google ID, and then they can reverse it into your location. So all of this is now transferred into this index of those three things, which is your email or Google ID, your location, and your IP address. So that's at home. Now, when you're on the road, there's two things that happen when you're on the road. If you're using your cell data, what happens is, A, you're not on your home network. So your IP address will change. So depending on what part of town you're in, your phone company will give you a different IP address. So therefore, when you go to a website, you don't have to worry about having a single IP address because you might have many IP addresses during the day. Secondly, your location is constantly changing. So you cannot actually associate an IP address to a location when you're using cell service because first of all, many people use the same IP address and they could be located elsewhere. And maybe an hour ago, a different person used that IP address. Now, an hour later, it's you and you're in a different location. And those IP addresses are rotated by the carrier. So a website can't really make heads or tails, or your phone can't make heads or tails about location and IP address using that method. What they're going to do is use your Google ID and IMSI and other information if you don't have a protected phone, capture that information, but it won't be IP address. Therefore, a VPN is not as useful when you're on the road because you're not really trying to protect the IP address when you're on the road. The purpose of a VPN when you're on the road is to encrypt your data from the ISP. Okay, so that's a little bit different. When you're at home, you're trying to protect your IP address. When you're not at home, you don't have to worry about protecting an IP address. What you're trying to protect is your data, and you need encryption. For example, if you're using the public network at Starbucks, you need to be encrypted. That's what a VPN does. If you don't want your ISP to know what you've been doing, what websites you visit, what apps you're using, and what DNS calls you're using, and what email is flowing back and forth, that is what is being read by your ISP. So the purpose of a VPN is to prevent a man in the middle from the ISP or a hacker. So the purpose of a VPN on the road is encryption, not IP address. Now, this is the distinction I've never really talked about, and I want you to understand this. So do you need an IP? Do you need a VPN on your phone on the road? And if you don't, it's not going to kill you because your ISP is the only one to worry about. The biggest part that you worry about is somebody listening in on email, and typically that's a traffic that your ISP can listen to. So that's the especially if your email is with the ISP. So that's the kind of thing that you don't want. So is it important to use a VPN when you're on the road? And the answer is it depends on what you're doing on the phone. If you're not doing anything active, all you're doing is walking around and you're not actually interacting with the phone, no. I imagine the as long as my locations are off and all that, I imagine the ISP is not capturing much data. It's really when you do email and go to websites and so on and use apps, that's when you ought to turn on a VPN if that matters to you. But at least they cannot get your IP address, which is one of the scariest things that they can do is get the IP address, location, and email combo. The trifecta, okay? Email, IP address, location. That is sold, okay? Every day, that's sold. So that information is not as useful in general on the road. Now, that is useful, although in an identified way. When people say, how many people actually work at Tesla? That's the example I gave. So if you're at Tesla, yes, they can find out all the phones at Tesla based on that. So yes, they got you there, but it's not necessarily identifiable to you just because you didn't do any action that will identify you, except for your Google ID. Okay, so I do get afraid of that Google ID portion of it. And so when you're off on the road, it's not IP address you worry about, but the possibility of something called device fingerprinting. So that's actually the second part. So the ISP is something to worry about, and the other one is device fingerprinting with location. IP address doesn't matter there. Just location and your Google ID or Apple ID. Okay, those two things. And obviously, Apple and Google always know where you are, so that's kind of a ongoing thing that's always happening. So, so you can assume Apple and Google are always there, and that's why I do the Google thing. It's because you don't want that. So anyway, so it's a VPN necessary when you're on the road. The VPN is not needed to protect an IP address when you're on the road, but you do need to protect your phone. But it's not the VPN that's critical, except for encryption to your ISP. There are other threats on the road, and the other threats has to do with device fingerprinting and not connected to the IP address and not connected to the VPN. Meaning device fingerprinting is nothing to do with VPN. So if you don't happen to install a VPN on the road, it's actually a limited threat. So I don't consider, now that I've thought about it, I'm not sure that really matters so much unless you really want to block information to your ISP. So if you're not that active with the phone, it's just sitting in your pocket on the road, you probably don't have to worry about a VPN there. What you do have to worry about is device fingerprinting. Okay, now, which kind of segues, well, before I segue into the main topic here, which is LineageOS and AOSP security, let me kind of close it out with this. One of the biggest fears I have is email and the IP address, and which is why it's so important to have a VPN at home, because every time you're at home, your email emits the IP address, and now anyone listening on the internet can capture from SMTP port 25 all the open traffic coming out of the MTA servers to MTA traffic, which is on my Proton Mail video. And then anyone listening to that, and particularly the main one that's listening to that, is the National Zucking Agency. The National Zucking Agency is capturing all the traffic coming out of port 25 through AT&T. There are 8 places in the U.S. where they capture international traffic relating to port 25 on email, and that's actually being captured at AT&T peering stations. And there are 8 stations all over the country, and it's being done by AT&T, where they filter it, and the algorithm then takes the email and forwards it over to the NSA. So they have a copy of everything that flows out. And one of the things that is in your email is your IP address and your name, presumably, and your email address. So now you know that your email address is tied to your IP address. Okay, and therefore, if I know your email address, I know your IP address, or the NSA does, or if I know your IP address and I know your email address. So I don't like those kinds of combinations, and now they can buy location, which can now say, okay, if I know your location, I know your email address, I know your IP address, because of that trifecta. Scary stuff, and this is why, and anyone can capture that, because all you have to do is put a listener trunk on the main internet and capture that unencrypted traffic, mostly unencrypted traffic on port 25. There's some of them are using Start TLS, but it's actually still a low percentage. The majority of traffic is still going on port 25. So it's lessening a little bit, but still not 100%. So because of that, I worry about it at home, because that IP address is in your email. If you look at the header of your emails, it always has IP address on there. And if that doesn't worry you, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't have a VPN, go to bytesvpn.com. Get yourself a VPN. Go to my store. It's a Brax router. So that's a very, very important tool, because you don't have to tell your family to use a VPN. If they're on the Brax router at home, everyone is in a VPN. So you're automatically protecting your family, your email, all of that, and you don't have to worry about it. So the email is where the major leak of IP addresses is happening, on email. This is why I dedicate so many videos in email. Nobody pays attention. Nobody pays attention to me. Very few people watch my videos on email. It's one of the most important topics. Okay, so continuing on. Wow, I really took too much time there. Sorry. Took too much time. Okay, next question is LineageOS AOSP security. I actually saw so many comments on the internet, and mostly it's disinformation, mostly from followers of GrapheneOS, and some of them are actually spamming my channel now, from followers of GrapheneOS discussion groups, and they're spamming my channel. You know who you are, and spreading disinformation and fear, which is actually not accurate. And I want to dispel some of this. By the way, I don't have a problem with GrapheneOS itself. GrapheneOS as an OS is fine. It's mostly made for Google Pixels. I have not been successful installing it on my Google Pixel, which I've now de-Googled. So this is a Pixel 3, so I'm going to start selling this in my store. This is the more expensive one. So off my phones, it's going to be one of the more expensive models. So this is a Google Pixel 3, and it's nice because it's smaller. And this is running LineageOS, no gaps. Okay, and some people are saying, well, you should be using GrapheneOS and that because you have a hardened allocator, secure boot, on and on and on, and all of this. And because if you don't use that, then you are using an unsafe version, and you're making it unsafe, and therefore you shouldn't be using that. And that's what we're going to debunk, because a lot of that is false. It's not really true, because if you actually know how it works, I'll tell you the worst case that happens. There are some advantages with using graphene, and if you want to pay extra to buy, they're more expensive phones, and if you want to do that, then you can do that. That's fine with me. I mean, it's okay. But do you really need to pay that extra money just because of a false promise? So if you're gonna have a promise, let's make it real, okay? One of the supposed advantages of graphene is that they have a hardened memory allocator. Now, I am a C programmer, as you all know. Well, maybe you don't know, but I've been programming in C for a very long time. I would consider myself a multi-master. You get mastery of a programming of anything at 10,000 hours. And I can't even tell you how many multiples of 10,000 hours I have with C. I've been programming in C for a very long time, and I've created many enterprise systems in C. So of all people, I know allocation of memory in C. It's something I know for a long time. And I know how you can do buffer overruns and all that in C. So yet we survived. So in any case, the guy, Daniel, I forget his last name, who is the developer of the Graphene project, which is originally from the Copperhead OS project. One of the things that this guy did was create a code for a different kind of memory allocator, which he says is hardened. So his claim is it's safer, and it may be, but I don't have a specific use case where there's been an attack of the kind he's talking about. So it may be hardened in his theoretical attack, but I'm not sure if there's any actual real case of an attack against it. And even so, then no one has taken up his version upstream. So no one from the AOSP project has taken that. A lot of what he does on Graphene is already in Android 10. So one of the other changes he did to Graphene is make some changes to the SE Linux policy. SE Linux is already on all on versions of Android for a long time, but and that's the SE Linux policies are defined by the AOSP project, and he made some tweaks in there to harden it some more, which I like. Some of the stuff he did was to allocate a special SE Linux policy for the IMU, for the inertial measurement unit, for gyro and all that, which is in one of my videos. So that is good. So that is good. So, however, beyond that, another one of his claim to fame is that GrapheneOS uses secure boot, whereas LineageOS does not. And yes, I've experience with that, and I know that LineageOS does not have secure boot. It has verified boot, not secure boot. Now, what is the difference? The difference, guys, is if you're running, maybe I should show this to you. If you're running LineageOS without secure boot, there's an error message on reboot. Maybe I can reboot this, and I don't know if I can show you because it detects that the bootloader is unlocked, and I can't lock it because it doesn't have secure boot. So it comes up with a message on there, bootloader message. Okay, that's the message that happens if you do not have secure boot. Okay, it says the bootloader is unlocked and software integrity is not guaranteed, on and on and on. Okay, and then it's now booting Android and then LineageOS. Okay, so my response to that is, so what? Yeah, exactly. So what? So you have secure boot, you go in, yes, you don't see that message. What can you really do? Can you attack this phone if it doesn't have secure boot? Well, I don't know how, because if you alter using verified boot, which is what it has, if you alter any of the system files, what actually happens is it forces a reset, factory reset of the phone. So what happens if somebody manipulates it from the outside using that bootloader, and they plug in a USB and try to manipulate this, the only result I've gotten, I've tried this, and if you don't know this, I have personally flashed maybe hundreds of these. Okay, hundreds of phones. Okay, and if you do not, if you downgrade the version, if you try to play with using rooting, you play with the OS, the result is that you either brick it or it erases your data. There's actually no way to do it. Even if you lock up your password, let's say you do, many of you have actually had this problem where you forget your password and your passcode, and so you have to do a reset because you can't do anything else. And there's nothing you can do to get into a phone, Android 10 or Android 9. There's nothing you can do that will have the data persist. So the thing is, it will erase your data. Now, so what is the advantage of a GrapheneOS? And there are some advantages. One of the advantages of GrapheneOS is it does not let you get to the point of data reset. Because of secure boot, it will stop you before you get to that stage. So in a sense, if you are keeping a lot of data on the phone, maybe you want that, but I don't recommend that. I don't recommend putting a lot of data on the phone. So my philosophy is put as little data on here, put it on Nextcloud, put it someplace else, put it on another file. Don't put it on your phone so that if you do a reset, this is a new phone, by the way. I used to use a Moto G7 Play, and now this is my Pixel 3 de-googled. So that's what I'm using right now. So I'm going to offer this in store. It's more expensive though, okay? This is more expensive. But this is a Pixel 3. So if you're doing this, using a Pixel 3, I can't do anything to it other than do a factory reset. It's not rooted. I don't root the phones. I do not root the phone. So there's actually no way in here to do anything, any damage without causing a reset. So your data is safe, even though it's just plain old Android AOSP without gaps. The important thing is the gaps. Don't have gaps on it. Google Apps, and you're okay. The battery lasts twice as long, and you're okay, regardless of what these fear mongers say about the fact that this is not as good because it's LineageOS or AOSP, GSI, or whatever it is. I don't really care what it is, to be honest with you. It doesn't matter. It's Android 10. It's pretty good. It has SE Linux on it. And the worst case that can happen to it, even with bootloader unlocked, is it erases your data. Okay? Unless you have a proven attack that I don't know of, show it to me, then I'll reevaluate my point here. But as far as I know, I have not figured a way to attack it and retain the data. Haven't figured that out. So I don't know how to do it. So I will try to learn how, but at the moment I don't have an attack, so I am not sure that just because I'm using Graphene that's going to be any better. So you can use Graphene if you want. The phones are going to be much more expensive, like $599, $699 range, versus my range currently is from $269 to $309 currently for the G7. This will be more. I don't know. It still be under 400. So for a model, I'm going to try to give you choices. So I have now, final point here is I myself have tried several models now that are new. So I have G7, G7 Play, G7 Plus is new. So I've added G7 Plus, but G7 Plus, guys, is only GSM. It does not work with Verizon. So unfortunately, that's not a good choice for those of you who want to use Verizon. So for Verizon, the option is still G7 XT1962-1. That's a specific model. So for Verizon, G7 is the only one. Or a Google Pixel 3. I don't believe a OnePlus 6 works with Verizon. I believe a OnePlus 6 is also GSM only. So at least there's now the Google Pixel and the Google Pixel 3 option. So I'm adding those to the store. Some of you are asking me if I can do Google things like Samsung S9 and so on, because it has LineageOS support. And I'm going to tell you right now, you will be surprised at some of these, like a OnePlus 6T, a Samsung S9. Some of these are carrier locked, and it's going to be a pain to figure out which one is unlockable. So you'll often find you send me a phone to do, and I can't do it because it's the wrong model. There's a very narrow range of models you can do. And some of you actually think that, I'm withholding information from you. Why don't I just tell you how to make do this? Is it because I want to make money on de-Googling phones? The reality is, guys, it's so difficult to de-Google a phone. It took me a month to figure out a OnePlus 6 in a reliable way. I have done so many OnePlus 6s. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and I don't really know why it doesn't work sometimes until I figured it out. And I did figure it out, and now I can replicate it. This one I've tried for a long time, Pixel 3. I finally figured it out. I've had this Pixel 3 for months, and I kind of gave up on it because I couldn't figure it out. So if you think that this is easy, if you understand the amount of time I have to spend to go figure it out, then you just need to be realistic about your expectation about how much time you have to invest in this. If you want to do it on your own, or if you try it and your first try is successful, wow, that's awesome, lucky you. Because sometimes you get lucky with your first try. But if you're going to do 10 or 3 of these, even 2 of these, you might find that 2 of the same model will have different problems, and it's very hard to figure it out because there's not a lot of documentation, there's a lot of trial and error, and you will brick them. So one rule I have is before I touch a phone, I have to know how to unbrick them. Okay, so that's the Google portion of this, and I kept it. I only went 4 minutes off, and then we can get into Q&A, and I hope I gave you some extra information. uh, glad to have the chance to explain that to you, because some people think I'm just trying to fleece you with money, and that's not the point. I help you if I can, but sometimes it's a little difficult to explain. Okay, if it's going to occupy me, my time, I don't have time, so you have to pay for a consulting fee if you want me to do something. And if you want to do it that way, yes, I can do that too. I can guide you, but it takes, some of these files are gigabytes. And so not only do I have to spend the time to do that, I have to spend the time to upload files to you and download. It's very time consuming. So, by the way, a lot of you have been here. There's been 772 watches in here, and only 47 of you have hit like. So I hope that you either like or dislike the video. So there's 163 of you here right now, and you must have an opinion. So give an opinion and hit like, dislike, or something, and show the algorithm what you feel about what I'm doing here. So thank you very much. Now, before I start my Q&A, and I'm done with the main topics in here, I'm going to plug something here just for fun. I have a new channel, and it's on the description of the video. And it's currently I named it Rob the Half-Baked Prepper. And it only has one video on it right now. But I've been working on the videos on it, and so you'll see some of what I'm doing. And the Half-Baked Prepper channel is about my boat, which is kind of like my bug out transport, and doing things on the boat that have to do with thinking about the boat as a self-contained house. It's like a tiny little house. And if you look in my future videos, you will see that there's a big ship next to me. I'll just call it a ship because it is a ship. And the ship next to me is, has 6,000 gallons of fuel and is running all the time. The engine's always running, and so on. And it's a very energy heavy kind of boat. My boat doesn't use much, and I only use 17 gallons of diesel a year, usually less, and that's if I take a very, very long trip like to Catalina Island. Otherwise, I use maybe half a tank, maybe under 10 gallons a year, and everything I'm doing is sailing. So and this is not about global warming or anything. It's just about when you're sailing, you're interacting with nature, and you're actually taking advantage of what nature offers without using anything else. And I love that. So, but a boat it's not a simple thing. It has a lot of electronics, and it uses energy. I put in an autopilot and did all of this, and I just put in new instruments, which will be the subject of a video. And I want to put solar. There's already lithium ion batteries on it, and so I'm trying to turn it into kind of a prepper kind of residence, even though I'm not going to live on it. The reason I call it the Half-Baked Prepper channel is because I'm never going to be a full-time prepper. It doesn't have any food on there. So if somebody wants to rob my boat, steal food, there's no food on there. So because if I'm going to use that, I can bring stuff to my house and bring it to the boat, and then whatever. So if some kind of thing is happening, I am able to get to the boat. And my boat has ham radio and everything on it. It has, of course, marine radio. So anyway, I'm going to do a lot of boat fixing, and then I'm going to do boating as well to show you, kind of how I'm using it as well with the sailing and so on, because I am an expert sailor. I've been sailing for a long time. So I'm going to be putting things, experimenting, everything from solar power to engines to doing repairs and all that, and relates to kind of my prepping part of this channel. I'm going to move it to that channel. I'm going to move all the ham radio things, experimentation to that channel. In fact, some of the things I did on ham radio was on the boat. So I'm going to keep expanding that to a separate channel to keep this channel clean and focuses on privacy issues, so I don't mix it up. But it's something I believe in, and it's something that is important to me. I just wanted to be able to do that without having to worry about my numbers. That's the way it is in YouTube, the numbers. So if my numbers go down, the algorithm stop sharing my channel. So it's like crazy. Anyway, it's on my video description. If you are interested in something like that, go click on it and subscribe to that channel, Rob the Half Baked Prepper, and we will start doing videos on that as well. Not as frequently as over here, but I do intend to do that. Okay, so let me see what I missed. Can your face be put in a database by using Zoom? It probably is already. That's another video I want to do. I was actually surprised. I have so many live streams on facial recognition. So many live streams on facial recognition, all the way to Periscope. I've been talking about facial recognition so often that I did not realize that I have no short video on facial recognition. So somebody brought it to my attention, and so I will be working on that soon, very, very soon. Maybe in the next 2 weeks, I will have a video on facial recognition. So put that on your expectation list, because that's very, very important, and you'll be surprised about some of the things that relate to that. So have to use it for Proctor for school. Well, you don't have a choice sometimes, but just have no expectation of privacy when you're doing video unless you have your own Nextcloud video server running Nextcloud Talk. Thank you, James Miller. The G7 you installed Lineage for me will only upgrade to newer versions manually. Do not will it wipe? Yes, it will not. No, if you do a update, it does not wipe apps. If you do an update, it does not wipe apps. So don't be so eager to do an update, okay? I have to test the updates here. Don't just take an update thinking you're doing something good, because you have to test it. For example, I haven't updated the G7 Play. I can send you an update. Why haven't I updated the G7 Play? Because it's not stable. That's the reason. So don't just take an update, especially for Lineage 17.1. It's not a stable channel. So yes, don't just update. It's a nightly. You could get a nightly update. You don't really want that. So maybe we need a chat group on Brax for this, so people know if there's anything that they need to do to get an update. But right now, don't worry about getting updates. If you're on the G7 standard, it's running a micro G version, so you shouldn't be updating those anyway, because they will not take the LineageOS version direct from Lineage, because it's not a Lineage version. Okay, but it's easy enough to update it when the time comes. You can just install the update by downloading it. Okay, so don't worry about it when the time comes. If you have a G7, you do not download the update. I will give you an update. All you need is a USB cable. You plug it into your computer and your phone, and I'll give you a downloadable file, and you can do an update. So also, if you screw up you reset your G7 Play, and you don't know how to restore back to the way we have it, I'll give you a download, and you can reset it back. There's a lot of procedures to follow, but it can be done. You shouldn't really do a reset. Is there a way to bypass internet protocol? And if so, wouldn't it be the best to be private on the internet? There's no direct way. There is a way to bypass the main activity on the internet by using private internet, such as I2P. I2P is a internet within the internet. So I2P is its own internet, and it doesn't have the reputation of Tor. Unfortunately, and I2P is not made to act like Tor, where you're just passing through. I2P is made for people to deal with it inside I2P. So you could have a server on I2P and expose it only to I2P. The problem is nobody's using I2P. I2P would have been nice to set up secret servers where you don't even reveal an IP address, because you're inside I2P, and it's not popular. I set up I2P, and it's not really. It's very easy to turn on I2P, but nobody's using it. So someday, it's not P2P. It's called I2P, not P2P. No, is IRC still popping off? No. Are vanilla AOSP without gaps available for all device ready? Yes, they are. You can in theory flash if you can unlock your bootloader, which obviously is problem number one. You cannot unlock bootloaders of many phones. Uh, Tip: if you're going to buy a new phone, I'm not even sure you should ever buy a new phone. But if you're one of those who bought a new phone, think again if you're going to buy a Verizon phone or a carrier lock phone. Normally they're Verizon. First of all, they have less value at the end. You can't really, I guess because Verizon gives you a discount. They cannot be unlocked. So they're kind of useless. You cannot change them from Google. They will always be Google for the rest of their lives, and they may not be updatable. So they'll just get old, and you're zucked with them. So do not use any one of those phones locked to Verizon. You don't want that. That's why I don't like Verizon. Number one reason I don't want Verizon is they have these rules that kind of limit your choice. I don't like any company that limits choice. So Verizon is not my choice. Okay, if you want Verizon because it's in your area, I understand that. So I'll sell you one of these phones that does work with Verizon, but don't buy a Verizon phone. Okay, if it's better to use a GSM phone. Some of you don't know what GSM means. GSM is AT&T and T-Mobile and all of the people who sell those, like Ting, Mint, Cricket, Net10, etc. They all sell T-Mobile, AT&T. So T-Mobile, AT&T is GSM, and guess what is unique about T-Mobile and AT&T? That is the same system used internationally. So when you say GSM on a phone, that actually means the same as international. So an international phone will always work with T-Mobile and AT&T. Okay, but Verizon and Sprint requires a CDMA compatible phone, and that is a very limited format, and the only place where you can find CDMA in the whole world is the USA. So just even for resellability, it's just a bad thing. Can't resell the phone. A lot of phones are not compatible. They're always locked. They're all zucked up. So my recommendation is avoid. Sorry, let me just take this off. I'm probably doing popping noises here. Hold on a second here. I just noticed that I'm talking without using the pop filter. Sorry. I'll just use this. Okay, there we go. So I don't, because I'm screaming right into the device. So CDMA also in Korea. Wow. Why? Why? I've heard somebody talk about Calyx OS, but not sure it's important to know. Can you help me promote privacy from my school? How? Is LineageOS more secure than default Android even if I install gaps? No, LineageOS is equal to Android, the Android version it represents. So Lineage 17.1 is Android 10, and which is the same as Lineage 16.1 is Android 9. Now, is it safer to use Lineage? Well, one of the problems is if your phone is old, you often don't get an update. This is the bane of Android. If you're able to, let's say you're on Android 8 on an old Google Pixel. So now you're stuck with Android 8. So is that safe? Probably not. SE Linux is not updated. There's many attacks that you can do on Android 8 that you can't do on Android 10. A lot of the device fingerprinting is covered by Android 10. You don't need a GrapheneOS even. A lot of stuff is done by Android 10. It's really pretty locked down with SE Linux plus all the things they do to block off device fingerprinting. So Android 10 is a pretty strong system. The question is, if you are running a Android 8, the only option to make it more secure is to load a newer version of Android, and the only way to do that typically is to load LineageOS. So Lineage actually allows you to install a newer version. However, if you're dealing with the same version, Android 10 versus the equivalent of Lineage, it's the same thing. Same thing. So, but the important thing is gaps. Is WireGuard a better VPN protocol? Better for what? WireGuard is faster in transaction, meaning log in, log out. When you're signing into to OpenVPN, it takes a few seconds. On WireGuard is almost immediate. So when it has to negotiate something, it makes for a faster connection. That's one of the pluses of WireGuard. And it's a much more simplified and single encryption formula rather than the expanded support in OpenVPN. So OpenVPN is a much more expanded VPN. The problem is that we don't know all the possible attacks hit on WireGuard. So some VPNs do not use WireGuard. I don't use WireGuard yet, and I'm too small to actually have a mix of WireGuard and OpenVPN. And there's not really an advantage. I mean, we're doing it for the advantages of it, not just for fun. So for that reason, I don't need let other people experiment with WireGuard. A year from now, we'll say, oh yeah, WireGuard doesn't have any hacks and it's a little faster, and maybe we'll shift everything to WireGuard. At that point. But I don't have to be first. It's not important. As long as it works what we're trying to do, there's no immediate rush to do that. Let it stabilize. Let it stabilize. In theory, it's going to be a more efficient protocol, but it's not. It doesn't really affect you that much. It's that log in, log out time. It's simpler, smaller code. Where can I find vanilla AOSP without gaps for download? Well, you can compile yourself, or you can go to many websites that has GSI, generic system. What is it? Generic system image. That's what all Androids use now. GSI. Okay, so all Androids use the same one from the same source code. They're just a version for 64-bit, 32-bit, and so on. Other than that, it's with gaps, no gaps, and then you use a GSI, and that's it. And then you can use that. Now, loading a GSI does not mean it's compatible with your phone. So it's a phone by phone thing. Some carriers lock things on your phone on purpose. Some manufacturers of phones hide things. One of them is Huawei. So do not get a Huawei phone. Do not get a Huawei phone. Now, one of you say, wait, why not? They're de-Googled. Because a Huawei phone can never be bootloader unlocked, which means you can't really see what's in there. It is not booter. If it's not bootloader unlockable, you can't investigate to see what's on the phone. The only way to actually see what's on the phone is if it's bootloader unlocked. And so if you actually root it, you can see what's on there. You can examine every file if you want, okay? So not that you can do anything about it if it's a binary blob, but if it's something more basic, you may be able to figure out something about it. Huawei phones cannot be bootloader unlocked. Same with some of these Verizon phones. They ask the factory to lock it for them, so you can't. You don't want any bootloader locked phone, unlockable phone, because you can't investigate and take Google out or change whatever the manufacturer made. So do not get a Huawei. Some of you love Huawei because it's de-Googled, but yeah, it's Huawei. If you can't undo or look at what's on the phone, whatever promises Huawei says is BS to me. I almost said a bad word. Okay, it's BS to me because I can't go look at it. Okay, if Huawei unlocked the phone, wow, they would make big bucks because everyone would oh look, I can take a Huawei and for a long time I didn't know how to pronounce Huawei. So somebody asked, are you Chinese? No, I am not Chinese. I don't know how to pronounce Huawei until somebody told me. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I used a server for cloud and storing some files. So I didn't want to screw over Bob after all the help was given to try to file. Wow, what okay, what are you talking about, Google user? Okay, decent free VPN I can use to torrent. Use Orbot. or use you can use my Byte Store. You can use that too. I do give you a way. It's called Byte Store. Just don't use the main VPN. You can use Tor or my Byte Store, but BitTorrent is evil. It's as evil as Huawei and the CCP. Okay, BitTorrent, and the reason BitTorrent, side topic here, the reason BitTorrent is evil is that the people downloading from you are not there to download from you. They're downloading from you to basically catch you in the act of serving illegal content. So they're saying, gotcha! I downloaded this thing from your server, from your computer. Therefore, you're serving illegal content and we're going to sue you. So a lot of people on BitTorrent are actually not legit anymore. They're just there to look for you to, if you're using BitTorrent, they can actually feed you a file, even a file that you don't use yourself. And then they will download from your server and say, gotcha! So because of such a flawed way of implementation, since somebody can plug in a file in there, okay, don't use BitTorrent. It'll just get me in trouble with the DMCA, and it's such a headache to do it. If you want to be free of being labeled as a bad user because of a VPN, come over to my VPN, because everyone's a quality user. And if you are doing BitTorrent, don't go to my VPN. If you're a spammer, don't go to my VPN. Go to PIA. Okay? Don't go to my VPN. I want the only people on I don't care if I don't make money. If only a few people are on my VPN, it's okay. Okay? One of my friends is Tom Sparks reviews VPNs, and his main gripe is always with NordVPN. And I don't ask him to promote my VPN. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't need anybody else promoting it. It doesn't matter. I don't need a large VPN user base, extremely large number. What we have is good. Just keep going a little bit and it's fine. We now have servers in Europe and India. I just opened up a server in India, and I have servers in Australia. So US, Europe, I have it in Netherlands and France. UK is covered also across the way there, very close. Fiber optic connection to the Netherlands, I'm sure it's very, very fast. And to Paris, very, very fast connection. And I also have servers in Australia, and then just opened up one in India. And by the way, happy to say too that I actually am a user myself of Linode. So Linode has servers all over the world, and I am a Linode user as well. So Linode is a sponsor of my channel, and I appreciate that. I can actually use them. They're not just there for show. I'm not just talking about them. I actually use Linode as well. So, and great for your video calling using Nextcloud. If you're gonna want safe video, if you have a girlfriend and you want to do something like something that requires nudity, that's an idea for you. Set up a Nextcloud server. Even if the only reason you're going to use it is for video chat, you're going to be safe. That's a solution. So both of you can be on Nextcloud. So there you go. I gave you an option. Okay? Because otherwise, doing such thing on the internet is crazy. Very crazy to do. You shouldn't be doing that. Okay. Gotta Huawei, you're Huawei. Are you against 5G? Yes, I am against 5G. Not that I can do anything about it, but yes. How do I, we're being forced into 5G. They're taking away 3G now, right? So we still have, I don't know, a year or two of 3G, and then there won't be any more 3G. AT&T will drop out of 3G soon, and we're only left with T-Mobile. So, and then maybe a couple of years from now there will not, or a year and a half from now, there may not be 3G anymore. Fortunately, we'll have LTE, but they're trying even there, guys. Even there, LTE, they're trying to knock that down by saying we don't want your phone if your phone doesn't do Wi-Fi calling, and even T-Mobile is doing this. And they started to do this when after John Legere left T-Mobile. John Legere used to be always on my broadcast. I used to see him all the time. He drops into my broadcasts, to my live streams, and it was kind of good to see John Legere. And I had contact with him. He's no longer CEO of T-Mobile. But after that, T-Mobile started to say we are going to do Wi-Fi calling. So some of the phones, they're passing messages now to scare you. If you have a Nexus 5, they're saying, hey, we can't support your Nexus 5 because it doesn't do Wi-Fi calling. And it's like, Zuck, what are they doing to us? They're actually forcing us into 5G. And, I want to push 5G to, when they're using all these new phones in 5G, I hope you guys find a way not to be on 5G, because 5G is aside from, some of you understand the health issues and questions about 5G, which is discussed in my video, and though we don't know the actual meaning of the medical issues with that, the privacy issues of 5G are very clear. 5G can locate you within inches. The camera will beamform and find you. The antenna. The antenna will actually point to you exactly within inches. So if there's 5 of you using the phone, each of you will have a beam. Okay, and if they record that beam location, they'll actually can plot and say, yep, you're right there. They can triangulate the beam. Say, there you are by the door of the building. So, it's kind of like IPv6 worries me. 5G is even worse, because 5G is attached to a very specific location by inches. So IPv6 is bad enough because that gives a general neighborhood, a street even, but 5G is inches. Okay, so I want you to know that. Principe Vegeta, hello to TMO, also phasing out support for phones that this doesn't support. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Wi-Fi calling is actually tied to voice over LTE. How is 5G any worse than 4G though? Because of the beam forming. Watch my video on that. Beam forming. How can we store Lollypic? How can we store it on your Nextcloud server? Store it on your Nextcloud server. You want to store your dirty pics? Store it on your Nextcloud server. Don't store it on your phone. Can you suggest a secure voice communications app other than Signal and Telegram? Yes, set up your own Nextcloud. Nextcloud, private Nextcloud, such an amazing option. We need to use it more. I've heard from multiple sources that 5G was designed as a I don't know about that. Have you heard about Australian government centralizing YouTube? Australia. Need I say more? Australia wants to be number one in spying. I have so many friends here from Australia. I have a lot of viewers from Australia, and I feel sorry for you because your government is turning into they want to be the leader in surveillance. They want to break encryption. They want to do everything to make sure that they spy on every citizen. And I feel sorry for you. That's the only place where you go to the airport and they, open up your phone and say, you need to give us your ID so we can check your phone as you enter the country. That's only in Australia and New Zealand. So, and then, the things I discovered, in Australia, like their phone system, their phone carrier, Telstra, the ISP, actually does a proxy server of all the internet content that goes to Telstra, and they do a proxy server so they can spy on every website that you visit. My gosh. And because it's attached by hardware, you actually cannot beat it with a Tor router. You can't beat it with a Tor router. They have it on the hardware. This is on Telstra. So it's crazy country. And then, so if you're on Telstra, it's zucked up. Get your own hardware and use it on NBN. Signal's no longer okay. I was told Wicker. No. Don't tell me about Wicker. I know Wicker very well. What is meant by SE Linux is not enforcing your security is weakened. You should change. If your SE Linux is not enforcing, zuck that. You should set it to enforcing. So, did you undo the enforcing of SE Linux? Android 10 by default is set to enforcing. Old, like Android 8, is set to, some things are not enforcing. So SE Linux is enforcing on Android 10. It's just fine. I'd like to purchase a phone from me. I have many phones. SE Linux, I need to do a video on that to tell you. SE Linux is the one used on Linux, on Android, and then which is also used on Linux. And then the other option is to use App Armor, which is kind of similar thing, just a different approach. SE Linux was created by the NSA, so that is being used on Android. SE Linux is fine, and it should be set to enforcing. There's no reason it wouldn't be enforcing unless your Android is too old. Otherwise, somebody went in there and rooted it and set SE Linux to not enforcing, which you can do. You just root it. There are many videos. I don't know why they do this. Why would you want to do that? Okay, set SE, don't touch it. It is enforcing by default. Thank you, Great Gold. I might spam, but I'm not using a bot chat. Can you? There you go. Plasma 42 is kind of like spamming us with this information a little bit. Just don't be too eager. I understand you like to promote things on GrapheneOS, but some of your information isn't correct. So I want reality here, not hype. Okay? When people say something is not safe, we have to be specific. Okay, I want to know what the actual attack is and how you can beat it, and then if it's believable or not. Otherwise, we just create hype that's not true. Okay, because just because somebody wrote something and you actually believe everything because you don't know exactly how it works. Well, that's one of the things that's unique about me. I actually know how it works. Okay, I actually know how it works. So when I evaluate it, I'm not going to sell these things that are bad things for you. I understand the risk with these, and given that I understand what I'm doing for you, so I'm trying to get as many phone devices as inexpensively as I can that everyone can use, so we all de-Google. So that's what I'm trying to do. We don't need to buy expensive devices. Some of them from eFoundation, which is again good, but they're expensive. Or from the Pixel devices from Graphene, which are also expensive. They're very expensive. Like I said, $499 to $699, and in some cases at double what I sell. So if you want those, it's fine. I'm okay with that if you want to spend that money. I'm just saying, don't poo-poo the other models that I use. It's okay. So I'm not telling you not to get Graphene or eFoundation. They're fine. They're de-Googled. They're fine from what I'm talking about. They are good. Okay? It doesn't eliminate or diminish what I am, what I do, because I don't need to go that far for our purposes. Okay? We don't work for the CIA. We don't have to worry about somebody taking our phone data, because the idea is not to put too much data on this. If that's what you're doing, then yes, you do need to spend more money on those phones. I don't advise that, though. Don't put your naked pictures on here. Don't. Okay? If you do, move them out. So I don't recommend doing anything that is, will incriminate you, putting anything on the phone. I don't put much data on here. I can change phones daily if I want. I don't really care what the model is. I just transfer my contacts VCF file, and that's it. Install a few apps, and everything for me is in the cloud. It's not on the phone. Keep a Nextcloud server instead of putting it on here. Keep this safe. Okay, what am I missing here? No one wants to see your naked pics. Good. On the Google phones, you're tracked. Okay, so the other thing that I want to make clear again is the idea of device fingerprinting. So although you're on the road, as I mentioned, and the IP address is not meaningful on the road, the device fingerprint is on here. So instead of IP address, on a phone, you're tracked by device fingerprint. So that's the alternative. What are you tracked with? At home, it's IP address and device fingerprint. On the road, it's device fingerprint. And then now that can be tracked with location, apps you use, browser fingerprint, and everything else that you do. Okay, not IP address. And partly the reason they do that is because they realize that they don't get a good IP address anymore when you're not at home. So they've tried to find you through the device fingerprint. Well, a de-Googled phone has no fingerprint. I want to make that clear again. A de-Googled phone, meaning any AOSP, any. I don't really care which one you use. You can use mine, you can use any other company as long as it's no gaps. Any AOSP, Android Open Source project of any version without gaps is good. Even if you don't get it from me, it's good. Even if you do it by yourself, it's good. Because it does not have a device fingerprint. Okay? You don't know how critical that is when you never log into the phone. I have never logged in to this phone. There's no Google ID on here. Nothing. This has no identity. So if I walk around with this and they capture data, what data are they capturing? What are they connecting it to? There is no data with no device fingerprint. I have a device fingerprint video. Okay, if you watch that, then you'll make sense out of it. Device fingerprint does not exist if this is de-Googled. If it's Googled, you are zucked. Okay, they can match now all of your movements and everything you do to your device fingerprint, which identifies to you exactly. So what's the point of getting your location if they don't have a device fingerprint? That's the purpose of this information. Okay, somebody was saying you have to compartmentalize your activities, and that's why you make your data useless. And I've never used the word compartmentalize before, although I use the word isolation, which is kind of similar. But that's exactly what we're trying to do here. Is if you can't, I often look at it from the point of what data they're able to see at the endpoint, meaning in the database. If they're able to connect some pieces of data that can identify me, that bothers me, like locations matched to a device fingerprint. Location by itself, without a involvement of a, and it's if it's not my home though. If it's my home, that bothers me. But if I'm not home, location doesn't matter if there's no identity. So the issue is, take the identity out, and what you're left with is this information. So I don't really care if you use an app like Yelp, for example, which tracks location, and they track you all day, and you don't log into Yelp. Well, what exactly do they have about you? You've never logged in. See what I mean? This information, without a full identity, they have information, they just can't make sense out of it. So that's the key, is make sure that their information is not useful. That's what de-Googling does. It doesn't give you useful information without a device identity. Some of you ask, what apps can, let me do a short video of that, but somebody asks, what apps can I use on this? And they worry about, can I use this app, that app? And the fact of the matter is, with the exception of Facebook, there's no identity anyway. So it doesn't matter what they capture, they can't attach it to the phone identity. So it's depending on the app, you may have identified yourself to the app, but they can't capture device information and you can lock down things like location. Okay, what else did I miss here? What happens when you log in with your Google account with MicroG? MicroG is a spoofer. It creates a fake. This is the same with the Aurora Store. It makes a fake account. It doesn't actually go to Google. It goes through MicroG. MicroG then does its own location, and the only thing it sends over to Google is actually the notification information, and that is spoofed. Uh, uh, Forget about the McAfee Ghost phone. Forget about the McAfee Ghost phone. Let me repeat that again. Forget about the McAfee Ghost phone. Okay, so McAfee tied his name to the Ghost phone project, and now McAfee announced that he no longer supports that project. He says they're screwed up. Forget about the McAfee Ghost phone. Instead, go back to what I'm talking about, which is a Google phone with no identity. This is not meant to be secure in the sense of there's no data. This is meant to give disinformation. This is the Google phone is a disinformation device. Okay, that's why you want this. Let me just remind you again, for those of you who haven't hit like, unless you really dislike what I'm talking about here, please hit the like or dislike button, since there are hundreds of you have been in and out of this broadcast. And some of you have hit like or dislike, but most of you have not. So I know that there's been hundreds of you that's been in and out here. There's already been 1,815 playbacks. So that means 800 people in and outs. So some of you may be the same people, but certainly probably hundreds of different people. So I don't care what the OS is. If you want to use whatever else, you don't want to use what I do, it doesn't matter what the OS is as long as it has no gaps. It's all based on Android 10 anyway, which is very good. Or Android 9. There's some advantages to Android 10, but unfortunately some phones are buggy with Android 10. So you don't want to just say I want Android 10 because, well, it's got to work. If the phone doesn't work, it's kind of pointless. A lot of people are probably watching on NewPipe, so they can't like. If you're watching on NewPipe, that is fantastic. So you don't have to like if you're watching on NewPipe, but I'm sure many of you are not watching on NewPipe. How can I keep my location private? Purple, you need a de-Googled phone. Otherwise, your location is not private. Once you have a de-Googled phone, all you have to do is deny permission to location. You can't deny permission to location if you do not have a de-Googled phone. So it's kind of like problem number one. Okay? De-Google the phone first. Then you can block location, and then you'll actually be blocking location. Okay, we're running out of time, so we'll see how much I can answer here. Does anyone know if a LastPass style service for temp proxy credit card or browser? I saw an ad like that once. Privacy.com. Not sponsored by them. Maybe they should sponsor me. I haven't used it, but sounds like a good idea in some cases. Is your location private even from carriers with a Google phone? Carriers only see a rough location in LTE. The only way to see an exact location from the carrier side is if you have 5G, which is not here yet. Someday, they will know your exact location at all times. Thank you, Milo Fumble. Remind people about my other channel. Yes, so for those who just came in, I created a new channel called Rob the Half-Baked Prepper, which I will be using to do the prepper side of things on my boat. My boat is like standalone housing because it's, you can live on my boat. It has everything: running water, ahead, refrigeration, power water, lithium batteries, instruments, and I can go across the world on that if I had food and water. I don't have a water maker. That's because I'm actually not going to use it for cruising. But if I were to go cruising, I need a water maker on it. But I'll be doing things like doing solar on it. I do have some portable solar panels, but I may put permanent solar panels on it. It has autopilot and everything else. So I want to promote that channel where I'm going to be doing experimentation with things. If you like to do ham radio, things with noodling around, about, if you want to do anything to do with about, like sailing, I'm going to do all that on that, on the boat, and do, fixing and anything. It's like basically like a tiny house. Is your new the Google by restart your phone purple or what? I have to say I disagree. It's a bit dishonest to say you always need for information that your ISP previously had, now your VPN provider has. If you think that legal grist, don't use a VPN. If you actually believe that, then don't use a VPN. That's actually nonsense. If you understand the risk, let's talk about that again here. For somebody to say that you're going to skip having a VPN, you're crazy, to be honest with you. I already told you they sell the information of location, IP address, and your device fingerprint. And that's being captured by Google. And you actually say, well, that's not true. The ISP is not your problem here. The ISP is a problem. But it's not the main problem. The problem is from third parties, including Google, Apple, and third parties capturing those three pieces of information: VPN, IP address, and device fingerprint. So that is so dumb. Honestly. Legal grist, sorry, man, but you are like, come on. Don't give that kind of disinformation. I would never tell you to not use a VPN at home. You must use a VPN at home. Maybe not on the road, that's important, but at home, Zuck. Why would you want those trifecta to ever be revealed? Don't ever reveal a trifecta: IP address, location, and device fingerprint. You will be Zuck. Email as part of that. The device fingerprint includes the email. Zuck, that is crazy. So he's saying, well, I'm afraid of the VPN company, so I'm not going to do it. Your VPN company doesn't get your location. They only get one. One piece of data comes to the VPN, and that is the IP address. Okay, the trifecta doesn't exist except at your device, which you are sending out. My goodness, you will send a trifecta out to everyone on the internet. And I was like, wow, that is zocked up. Zocked up. Oh my gosh. Zocked up. Do not send a trifecta everywhere. There was another guy that made that kind of comment on my YouTube video. And was saying, well, in fact, he actually made a video against me because I said I promote VPNs. It's like, are you zucked up? I wish there was a choice. Okay, there's an actual choice. Where's that? And it has its own risk. So I have this other device. Oh, here. Decentralized VPN. This does not use an ISP. Here's an option. This is the deeper network device. Now, I actually haven't tried this yet. It's a no VPN company. Now it has its own problems. So, I haven't even used it because I know what the problem is. It bothers me. So, for you, Lego Gris, this may be your solution. If you don't trust an ISP, then go with a decentralized VPN. I don't necessarily recommend this for everyone. It could be a good secondary choice. The reason I don't recommend it is if somebody uses BitTorrent on your network, you are zucked, and you will be responsible for that, and they will sue you. and you don't have the protection of a VPN who will carry the legal load, you actually have to defend yourself. So that's going to be a problem. So that's the scary part, is anyone on this could use BitTorrent, download videos on your IP address and your Zucked. So that is why I'm scared to use it, because there's no protection for that. But my goodness, if you actually think you can get away doing nothing, I know, actually there is a solution. Let's say you do not want to do anything and you do not want to use a VPN. Okay, I'll give you an answer. Use cell data. If you're on cell data all the time, then the only thing you got that you got to worry about is your ISP. So if you trust your ISP more than a VPN, yes, cell data, but not DSL. Why is cell data okay? Because the IP address changes. It's not fixed to you. But not DSL. My IP address hasn't changed in, I don't know, definitely 18 years hasn't changed. I have the same IP address so far for the last 18 years. So you don't think that is identified to me? So if you think you can get away without using a VPN, good luck. Your data's probably sold everywhere now. Oh my gosh, your location. Somebody will do IP address lookup on you. I can look you up on the Skyhook database and all of those data location databases. There's so many of them. You subscribe to them, and they give you the database, and then you punch the IP of Lego Gris there, or Lego Gris, and you'll find his location. Or you have his location and you punch the coordinates and you get the IP address, or you get his email and you get both. So that's why you do not want this. You do not want the trifecta, folks. If there's an answer that is better, I would tell you, but at the moment I don't have an answer other than a VPN. So if any of you do not trust companies that are VPNs, well, I happen to have a VPN. It's bytesvpn.com, and you see a face that I'm the owner of that VPN. It's associated with me. I'm the owner of it. I run it. And if you have any questions, you ask me directly. It's small business. There's enough of us. We are, we have servers in Europe, America, Australia, India. So we're doing well. And so you if you have any problems with that, you tell me. If you're saying we have logs, because other people here are saying that we can't trust you have logs, go ahead, go trust NordVPN. Trust those corporate guys that actually can profit on your money. I can't profit on your money. I'm too small. I don't have enough data to sell. Okay, so therefore it's impossible for me to make money off your data, because I don't have that kind of data. There are no logs in my goodness, I use it myself. I certainly don't want any logs on it. So there are no logs, and if you want to dial up to the server, yes, we can dial up together. We can do a session and I can show you, and then you tell me where to go and I'll go there. And you tell me what, if you're a Linux expert, you can say, I want to see what's up with it. I'll show you everything. There's nothing on there. Nothing. In fact, I don't even have enough disk space. I think one of my servers only has 25 gig on it. So I don't know what kind of logs you can expect to keep on 25 gig. So if you're in the US and use your VPN, can you also connect to one of the servers in the other countries? You can connect to any of my servers anywhere in the world. You can use, they work everywhere. So somebody in Europe can use the US servers. Somebody in India can use the US servers. You can use the India server. You can use the Australia server. Whatever. You can do anything. What about it? You have no data. If you have no data, can you track it? What about it? You have no data. Can you track it? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Okay. Do you provide email and hosting services? I don't yet. I've been wanting to set up. Basically, what I want to do is set up a KVM server in Linux, which I can do on Linode, and then sell you a KVM module, a KVM virtual machine, which has pre-made email, and then you can run your own email server, because it does require quite a bit of skill to make an email server. You have to have a lot of experience, and it's kind of a specialized thing to do. So and it's very hard to do. So if you don't have the knowledge base, you will get hacked if you don't know how to set up an email server. So I'd like to provide that, but it's not going to be inexpensive. It's not going to be inexpensive to provide it. This is not a $9 a month kind of thing to do. So because of that, the infrastructure for it, I have not done it yet. But if there's enough demand, yes, that's my intent, is to make a virtual machine server running your own email, and you run it. I don't run it. You run it. Therefore, you control your email, and you're safe. By the same token, you can run your own Nextcloud. You don't need me for that, but I can pre-install Nextcloud and on your home if you want to do it like that. If you want to do it on the cloud, you just use a company like Linode and set it up there. Okay, so I'm out of time. So let me just hopefully your VPN in Europe is in the Netherlands. I have it also in France. You tell me if there's any law that is in conflict in the EU, and I'll be happy to move it. Okay? If you're in the EU and you have a suggestion about the VPN, I use the Netherlands because it was centralized, and they had a good sale. It was good bandwidth for the price, so it was very good. It's a dedicated server, so I like the deal. So that's why I said, this is better than having it in the UK. UK has a law that they can go into your server, so I was a little bit concerned about the UK, but I didn't find such a thing in the Netherlands. But if you know of something, let me know. I'm happy to move the server or give you another server if need be. So I'm happy to do that. I'm very flexible if you have some information on it. You don't have to use those servers. So if you don't want to use the Netherlands or France, you can use the US servers. Okay? Facial recognition vid. Yes, I need to really... There's some gotchas in facial recognition. Things that are not obvious. It's hard to tell people about Rob without getting put into a mental institution. UK Five Eyes. No, UK Five Eyes is not as bad. Well, it's pretty bad, but Australia wants to beat UK. Australia wants to beat the UK. Usually, UK is like number one outside of the NSA. Usually, it's GCHQ is like top. Like, NSA and then GCHQ. Well, Australia wants to be up there. How can we make sure there are no root certificates in our computer? It's such a good question, Nemo777. Fortunately, you can go look at the root certificates in your computer, and if there's something unrecognizable, you will see it. For example, if you load Avast, don't zucking load Avast on your computer as your... In fact, do not use any paid or external antivirus. Something like Avast will put a root certificate in that is fake and zuck. That'll zuck you up. It's not in my head. My home for 3 years. Thank you, Pastora Kate. Thank you. Pastora Kate's been on Braxme for a long time. Okay, I'm come to Braxme. That's where I have my store anyway. If you want to buy my products, it's all on Braxme. Braxme has gotten so many new users in the last few months since I've done the videos. We were like kind of slow growing place for a long time, and then suddenly they're like, so many of you, thousands and thousands of people have been on Braxme in the last few. I mean, many thousands. Many thousands of you are now on Braxme. So I appreciate that. You can use the Google app version, the iOS version, or you can download an APK without even going to any store. And, if you don't want to use the store, you don't need to. Braxme will run. I run Linux, plenty of security auditing tools to play with. Yep. Although just because you're running Linux doesn't mean it's it's not vulnerable. It can be. I will be soon, promise. I when's your next what did I miss? Purple was saying. Okay, so thank you. So I'm out of time. So I will catch you in the next video. I don't know why you didn't watch. Many of you didn't watch the video on video. It's such an important video. It took so long. It took weeks to research that. Weeks. So please consider watching that video on video calling and video streaming, and hopefully that puts a fear in you. Understand it deeply. If I'm going to suggest to you that you're going to use video, I really do suggest you set up your own video server and only have video on your server using Nextcloud. Okay, so watch that video. It's not performing well, and I don't know why, because it's so important. And when Google sees it, you don't watch it, then it doesn't push it, and the whole channel kind of collapses. So I don't waste time with my videos. These are, maybe nobody needed to know about cloud computing being safe because you have to be in business to do that. But for most of you that use Zoom, and most of you do, you should really be concerned and know that know what's being known about you when you use things like Zoom. So don't forget to hit the like, guys. There's been hundreds and hundreds of you here, and only 131 of you have hit the like button or dislike. And I know there's been 2,187 playbacks. So that's at least 1,000 viewers, I think. So if 1,000 of you have watched this video, certainly you have an opinion and can hit like or dislike. If you don't like me talking about VPNs, hit the dislike. If you don't believe me because you think I'm lying to you, hit the dislike. Otherwise, you can hit like. And I only left once. Okay, so appreciate it, guys. I will, I expect to. There's a couple more videos I need to make, but definitely I will try to do the facial recognition one. And don't forget my new channel, Rob, the half-baked prepper. I will be releasing videos next week on it. So, if there are users in there already, might be good. If they're subscribers, let's get that to 1,000 quickly. So go to my channel, Rob, the half-baked prepper. There's a link in the description, and subscribe to that channel. I hope, if you like that kind of stuff. If not, don't. I mean, you gotta like it, but it'll be more fun and relaxed, not as heavily focused on specific privacy as this. Okay, it's more gonna be a lot more gadgets and solar and batteries and electronics and ham radio, boat repair, things like that. Okay, so good to see you guys, and I'll see you next video on Thursday. Bye bye.